Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crucible Call, your 4th Battalion podcast, hosted by Cadet Jardines and myself, Cadet Tone. Now, today marks our third episode, and it is a very special episode that we wanted to get out a little earlier than normal because Army cadets have FTX this weekend, and it's just a busy time for everyone. So, without any further ado, we're just going to jump right in and start talking with today's special guest, our very own Senior Enlisted Advisor, the one and only Master Gunnery Sergeant Jones. Master Gunnery Sergeant, while you may need no introduction to any of us current cadets, for the sake of future listeners or prospective cadets, would you like to tell us a little about yourself and what exactly your job is as our Senior Enlisted Advisor?
My name is Master Gunnery Sergeant Lance L. Jones. A little bit about myself, but first, I am the 4th Battalion Senior Enlisted Advisor. This is my first year, as well as this is the inaugural year of the standing up of 4th Battalion, joining a great organization, which is the Corps Cadets. I did 9 previous years in 2nd Battalion. 29 years in the Marine Corps. I've been wearing a uniform for 39 years. I probably coached, teach, and mentored probably over 20,000 cadets in my tenure. So just glad to be here and given an opportunity to converse and talk to you young men and talk about our life and ask some questions and be kind of like the sounding board.
Yes, Master Gunnery Sergeant. We definitely appreciate you coming on here today. So going back a little bit, what actually led you to join the Marines in the first place?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I grew up in the inner city. Did a year of college and just found out that I didn't have the discipline or the direction or the drive to be a college student. I was basically wasting my time and my parents' money. Came back home, and there were opportunities, but for a young man, I didn't want to get into manual labor, like working in a mill, doing slave labor and stuff like that. So I tried my craft out at working at fast foods as assistant manager. That just didn't work out because I like expensive things, and making barely above minimum wages was those two did not equal out. So I walked down the different recruiting offices, and then I just decided the Marine Corps gave me a challenge from afar. And I just said, you know what, it's time for me to step up and move on. And then here we are over 40 years later. So did I answer your question?
Yes, Master Gunnery Sergeant.
All right.
Would you say there are any examples from your time in the Marine Corps that kind of exhibited to you what really good officers look like, or the opposite, what a really bad officer looks like, Master Gunnery Sergeant?
Well, I wouldn't say there is a such thing as a bad officer. Maybe an officer that's challenged beyond their capabilities. For officers, as well as senior enlisted, as well as just leaders, leadership is a challenge, and it's like a knife. You keep it in your sheath for a lot, but you take it out when you need to use it. But if you don't keep it sharp and it stays dull when it's in time of need, then it doesn't serve its purpose. Great officers care about their people, but understand their craft, and they empower people to empower them to complete the mission. There have been some officers that I think that have been challenged during my tenure in the military. And it's because a lot of them have the misunderstanding where they either read too much out of a book, they watch too much out of a TV, or if they fail at something, or they don't really have the buy-in for young men and women to accomplish the mission and follow their lead, then they struggle with that interpersonal relationship, which in result displays them as a bad leader or incompetent leader. Officers are judged a heck of a lot harder than enlisted young men and women. And it's because it's one of them, they're in charge, they're responsible. And the bottom line is they need to accomplish and execute. And when you don't do that, a lot of senior officers are just not forgiving. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Jones.
Mr.
Was now since you were in the Marine Corps for so long and rose up through the ranks, I'm sure you got to work with a lot of, you know, high profile and successful officers. Like I know you've mentioned before, General Mattis. Is there anything like personality or habit wise from some of those officers that you noticed that really kind of set them apart and maybe made them so successful?
Well, I'll just bring two to mind where people are really, really, really keen on these names. One, General Mattis. Mad Dog Mattis was a reader. And he before he made a decision, his thought process was phenomenal. As he got a little older, he became like a well-sharpened knife. He wanted what he wanted, he got what he got it, and he led the way he led. But he was very intelligent. And being that he was intelligent, it wasn't like you could slide things under the rug or work around him. He made people want to be better, and he made troops want to serve him. So, in that aspect, I think his knowledge base and his intelligence was off the chart. I've never met a man more brilliant than him, but I never met a man more brutal than him. I mean, he held you accountable for your actions. General Dunford, very smart man, but totally different. Very smart, but he was low key, very intelligent. But the thing that I learned from General Dunford, and I pass this on to cadets all the time, is know your people and care about your people. And what I mean, know your people, not just their name, their family, what's going on in their lives, how can you make things better, their struggles, the whole 9 yards. And he would do that on a broad basis. And it would just, you know, I've seen him several times walking down the hall in the Pentagon, and he would just come up to me and say, "Hey, Master Sergeant, how you doing? How's your family? How's your kids?" And he would know my kid's name verbatim. And that would just blow me away. This man with a complicated job that he has and the importance of his job knows my family like that? Wow, amazing. When I grow up, I want to be just like him.
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting that you you brought up knowing your people and being able to like motivate them, because I think that's something that, at least in my experience here in the Corps, that's something that sets you apart as a senior enlisted advisor, is you're able to energize us and motivate us. Whereas in other battalions, I know like it can be a struggle to motivate cadets and to get people to want to do their job. But at least in 4th Battalion, I haven't seen a lot of that, and I think that's obviously in combination with you and Lieutenant Colonel Sheets. But you have a big presence for us, MGySgt. So now going back in time a little bit, before you came to Tech, you were a training advisor for Hargrove Military Academy. Is that correct, MGySgt?
That's correct.
So how is the Corps at Tech different from Hargrove?
Hargrave. So my job at Hargrave was a little bit different. I dealt with post-grad athletes. Currently, right now, I have, of the kids that I mentored, and you're talking about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, I have about 4 or 5 that's still in the NFL and 2 that's in the NBA. But these young men came from a different background. They came from inner city, or they came from poverty-stricken environments where they were blessed with physical and athletic attributes that would market them to a higher level and to be able to perform in front of one-eyed monster, which is the camera on TV. A lot of them were not accustomed to dealing with structure. A lot of them were not accustomed to everybody wears the same uniform. A lot of them had anger issues where they didn't know how to bottle their anger or follow instructions. So it was a different environment to where I had to get them to believe in the system as well as maintain the belief of themselves, as well as prepare themselves with the rigors of academics on the college level, and just give them a little fatherly love. Because a lot of them did not have a father figure in their lives. So they had more of a street mentality than a academic mentality. Does that make sense?
Yes, Master Sergeant.
Yes, Master
So
Sergeant.
just trying to transition their mindset from one environment to another was a serious challenge. And then you got to understand, when you got a young man that's 6'7", 285 pounds, just think of that young man going to Chick-fil-A and get a 12-count nugget with a small order of waffle fries and a small lemonade. Stomach and mind are not connecting right then. So there you have it.
No, I know you mentioned it already, Master Sergeant, but after coming to Tech, you spent a lot of time with 2nd Battalion here as their Senior Enlisted Advisor and my Senior Enlisted Advisor when I came in as a freshman. What would you say have been the biggest differences between 2nd Bat and 4th Bat now that you've been with us for a year?
Well, 2nd Battalion was already established. So coming in the 2nd Battalion, without a Senior Enlisted Advisor and you had a Deputy Commandant, cadets got to do a lot of things that was kind of done under the radar. Because it's hard for one person to hold 300 young men and women accountable with the rigors of academics at Virginia Tech. Being that, you don't see them. It's a live and learn community, but it's not a real live and learn community where you're having interactions like VMI and Citadel, where you control, where the organization controls everything. We're a entity in part of the university. So trying to get these young men and women to transition into, this is what your purpose is, this is your learning objectives, and this is your direction, was a challenge. Because a lot of them really didn't know what an NCO was, let alone what NCOs do. And then when you try to implement that, you probably get 6% buy-in and 40% pushback. But my mindset was this: I knew things would change once I took a freshman class from freshman to senior, because then the feedback would not be, well, this is the way we've done it always before you got here. Now it's, okay, I've been here just as long as you have. So now I understand what you've done. Now it's time to do it the right way, and now it's time to make a change. So that was the challenge in 2nd Battalion. And then the Commandant asked me to kind of spread the wealth and knowledge and move over to 4th Battalion. And I'll be honest with you, I love 2nd Battalion. I still do love 2nd Battalion. But the challenge and the blessing of starting a new battalion, and I got to pick a couple of people like yourself to bring over with me, was just, that was an opportunity that you just couldn't turn down. And even though I love the 2nd Battalion, I am married to 4th Battalion with no chance of divorce. So there you have it. And like I said when I first came here, 2nd Battalion being small, it just reminds me of those 29 years in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps was small, but lethal and deadly and powerful. 4th Battalion is the same way. Small, lethal, powerful, and deadly. And I just want to build on that, because you young men and women have brought so much new history and ethos to this organization, with the anvils, with the mottos, with the ethos, with all the things that we do here. I'm just excited just to be a part of it. And I know when I sit in that white rocking chair in about 15 years, I could come back here at a football game and still feel the pride and the honor and the commitment of young men and women in 4th Battalion. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, Master
Yes,
Sergeant.
Mr.
Thank you.
Jones. And that actually transitions perfectly into what I wanted to talk about next is if you do come back in 5, 10, or 20 years, what are some things you would want to see out of 4th Battalion?
So I would like to see 4th Battalion better than when I left it. I know without a doubt in my mind that the learning lesson that I've learned in probably a couple of months is to trust but verify. Your opportunities to lead and coach, teach, and mentor from a cadet's perspective. One of the greatest things of leadership that people don't talk about, I think it's an emotion that if you don't have this in your leadership skill toolbox, you're a failed leader, and that's love. If you love what you do and love the people you work with, even the ones that don't make the mark, if you love them, that is a skill, that is a emotion that is so hard to get a person to really understand. But when they feel it, they get a phenomenon about themselves to where is that they can walk through a brick wall without worrying about getting a scratch on them, or walk through a hot furnace with a gasoline suit and not worry about getting burned up. So no matter how big, how strong, how fast, how slow, how smart you are, to me, one of the biggest keys to leadership is love. And that emotion, kids can sense that, because you're not too far disconnected from family of mom and dad. So you understand what love is, or you understand when you weren't loved. So welcoming into this family and getting a level of love gets you to buy in, because you know somebody cares about you. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Stern. So after all these years at Virginia Tech, I'm sure you've seen a lot of trends with cadets, and you've seen a lot of cadets. What are the most common mistakes that you see cadets make, maybe specifically cadets in leadership roles, that kind of hinder their progression here, Master Sergeant?
So I'm glad you bring that up. And I want you to really understand this. A lot of times when young men and women at the Corps Cadets hear pure accountability, they think of, I got to tell on my buddies, I got to tattletale, or I got to be a snitch. And it's not that. A creative mind can articulate to where a young man will understand and respect what you're doing, but it's 80% about your delivery and 20% about your direction. Prime example, if I was the battalion commander and you was my sergeant major, Mr. Jones, and I said, I saw you do something wrong. Now I can walk up to you, dig into you a little bit, report you, or I can say, listen, I'm your bud, I'm your friend, but I'm also in charge. If you're my friend and you're my bud, then you respect what I'm about to say to you. And this conversation is just between you and I. What I just saw you do is wrong. And you know it's wrong. Now, based on the degree of it being wrong, I need you to fix it, because you bought into me, the organization, yourself, and the Corps Cadets. And if that person respects you based off your delivery of what you just said, 9 times out of 10, hey, bro, I got it. Sorry about that. I'll fix it. Okay. Now, if you walk up to them and you berate them, belittle them, and so on and so forth, they immediately shut off. But then at the same token, if you don't say something to them, then you as a leader fail because you turn and look the other way. So if they know that you're going to deliver a respectful redirection, they respect you for it. And they know that you believe in them and you're going to hold them accountable. And that's what we miss. And that's what cadets have a hard time dealing with. Let's hang out. Let's go do what we do out in town. But then when we come back into that quad, whether it's Pearson East or West, I'm the commander. You're the subordinate. We're a team, but I have responsibilities that are increased more than yours. Respect me, and I respect you and take care of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, Master.
Yes, Master Garrison.
That makes a lot of sense.
Have you seen any of that come from 4th Battalion specifically this year, Master Garrison?
Well, let me say this. Every young man and young lady is going to struggle on certain situations and thrive on certain ones. And the reason why it's like that, because it's not common to you. Think about this, if you will. An enlisted young man or young lady comes in the military. There are years before they get a level of responsibility, correct?
Yes,
Master.
An officer comes into the military with formal training, an education to figure out things a lot faster than a young man just coming in there straight out of high school. Okay, they got some formality in there. But they're still at a lower level being mentored by somebody senior to them. So with that being the case, as you transition through that whole process, people understand where you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall short, but at the same token, you're going to gain momentum when you buy in to progress up to higher and more increased responsibility. Did I answer your question?
Yes, Master.
Yes, Master, sir.
So, moving forward with 4th Battalion, what are some things that you might have seen this year that you wanted to change? Not in terms of like anyone specifically, but styles of leadership, SOPs for the battalion, things along that lines.
Well, let me say this. Between Miss Young and Mr. Jardine, the double J's, there's nothing I would want to change. This battalion is progressing quite well. They have left a legacy for the next battalion commanders fall and spring to fall into. I think the greatest thing was Miss Young brought in the identity of 4th Battalion, making a smooth transition from an expansion team until a playoff team. And once we did a changeover, Mr. Jardine built a foundation of history and heritage and direction and empowered even more buy-in that he inherited from Ms. Young. So this organization, 4th Battalion, is moving to great heights when it comes to success. I am happy to be a part, and I'm eager to see where it goes. And I'll just tell you, the double J's have set a bar, and who's ever the battalion commander in the fall, got some big shoes to fill. So
Yes, Master Garrison. Is there anything that you specifically maybe have goals for our battalion or are looking forward to see before you retire?
I'm eager to move in Castle Grayskull. The iron ore pit of society and life, where steel is made, titanium is fostered, just where these young men and women will have their own place of gathering where it will be admired from afar. I'm a firm believer, when you take care of your house sells who you are, but it also shows people who you are. And the greatest thing about a new building is make it new, let it be seen, let it be known, and let everybody get the experience. So I'm excited to take 4th Battalion to a new building. I'm blessed to have served in all 4 buildings. Only Senior Enlisted Advisor or Commandant staff has had that opportunity to do that, because I was in Pearson East, West, and Eggleston. But I'm excited to see 4th Battalion in that new building. And it also gives band an opportunity to show their identity. I think band as an organization is the most misunderstood group of young men and women in the Corps. Because if you look at band, they do 3 times as much as a college athletic program at Virginia Tech. These kids are students. They have a commitment to either civilian track or an ROTC. They're a Corps cadet, and they're blessed because they have a musical ability to play music. And I tell them this all the time. No matter what emotion you're going through, what soothes you better than anything else in the world? Music. So when you have been blessed with that art, unless you're a musician, it's hard to really understand you, but it's easy to appreciate you. So there you have it.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant.
Yes, Mr. Sergeant.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Sergeant. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us.
So here's my parting shot to all of you young men and women. It's not about the pay. It's not about the recognition. It's not about me able to tell people what to do. What it's about is when I see young men and women like yourself, Mr. Jardine, in a couple of months, when you graduate and you walk up to me and you say thank you, that's my paycheck right there. To watch you from being a snotty-nosed little freshman to now a future leader leading this country through national security, and you saying thank you, and you going out on future endeavors, that's my payback right there. So with that, I will sign off, and it's been an honor and a privilege to interact with you 2 young men, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Sergeant.
Sergeant.